Bueno, vamos a jugar este juego que hace rato que tengo ganas de probarlo.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
Ok, bueno, a ver, bastante raro esto, porque es como que el tipo era un completo inútil, porque literalmente lo único que hacía era tocar las teclas del monitor en base a lo que le decía la computadora. Pero bastante, o sea, está muy piola este juego, boludo, te lo juro, o sea, me pone muy feliz jugarlo. No, pero a ver, lo que quiero hacer es primero pasármelo haciéndole caso a la voz esta, porque por lo que tengo entendido la voz dice qué es lo que hace Stanley, o sea, qué es lo que va a hacer en la historia. A ver, bueno,
All
salió.
of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Ok, la sala de reuniones. No tengo ni idea de dónde queda, pero me imagino que por acá. El chabón que habla.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Ok, vamos a la izquierda. Ok, lo interesante es que cuando haces una acción no puedes retroceder, no puedes hacer, no puedes volver nada. O sea, eso es genial, tipo. Una vez que tomaste la decisión, ya está. Es como que no hay otra posibilidad de ir y volver y no sé qué.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Ok, tengo que ir a la sala de mi jefe. Ah, dijo
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Ok, Stanley subió a la oficina de su jefe. Igual, en parte no sé si realmente Stanley está haciendo lo que dice el chabón o lo que él pensaba. Es como que me parece que Stanley no está tomando sus propias decisiones en realidad. La oficina del jefe es esta, ¿no?
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this, what dark secret was being held from him. What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
O sea, 2845, o sea, quiero poner el código, pero Stanley no lo sabe el código, entonces ¿qué hago? ¿Lo busco? Que bueno, igual tendría que seguir, ¿no? Ya fue.
2845.
El hijo de puta quiere que ponga 2845.
Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
Ok. O sea, yo no quería hacer esto, quería quedarme acá. Pero vamos a seguir lo que dice el chabón, más que lo que haría Stanley. Después vemos qué hace Stanley. Ah, vamos a bajar, boludo. Vamos a ir al piso abajo.
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
Ay. Ok, bueno, se ve que Stanley ahora está dudando un poco de...
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Centro de control mental. Ah, ¿puedo escapar? O puedo ir... Bueno, sí, igual me dijo que entra acá, así que... ¿Qué hay acá? A ver.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out? Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
Yo cuál era el 247, ¿no? 242, 247, ese era yo, ¿no? A la mierda, o sea, todos estos eran mis compañeros. Para mí yo soy este, el que dice 247, pero no me acuerdo qué número decía al principio de la historia. Igual habían algunos que ponían despedidos. Onda, ves por allá, por ejemplo, despedido, despedido. O sea, es bastante raro esto. Allá hay uno que está roto igual, ¿eh? Ok, ¿qué es este botón?
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly?
Okay.
No. He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! It was unthinkable. Wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world?
What? Huh?
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy, or sad, or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
Acá dice control central offline. A ver, tengo que desmantelar todo esto, pero la verdad es que no tengo ni la más pálida idea de cómo lo voy a hacer. No tendré que meterme ahí, ¿no? Ah, no, acá. Facilidad de power. 5. Tendré que tocarlo en orden. Mind control serial waiting input. No me quiero meter porque si me meto acá después se me cierra la puerta y no puedo volver. En teoría algo de acá tengo que tocar, ¿no? Acá tengo un control, ¿no? Ah, control deshabilitado. Hay una puerta. No se puede abrir. Amigo, cada vez que hago clic, amigo, gané un trofeo que... O sea, toco clics y literalmente los clics son como sonidos del teclado. Y me dio un trofeo por eso, por haber intentado hacer algo con eso. Ah, acá dice 1 2. ¿Dónde está el 3? Toqué 1, 2. Tendría que buscar el 3, creo. Me ponía 1, 2, 5. ¿Dónde está el 3? Ah, ya puede estar el 3. 3. Me falta el 4. Que no sé dónde está. Ah, está allá arriba el 4. Ah, pero acá está cerrado, hijo de puta. Ok, esto ya para hacerlo, creo que tengo que jugar varias veces el juego. Y aparte no tengo una linterna, boludo. No veo un choto. Ah.
And when at last he found the source of the room's power, he knew it was his duty, his obligation, to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for.
Ok. ¿Qué pasó? Se me llega a cerrar el juego, boludo, y sería muy chistoso, la verdad.
Blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over? Yes. He had won. He had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him. For it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door. Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
¿Y así termina, boludo? Ok, termina el juego. Completa de Stanley Parable. Ok, está bueno. O sea, como tal, la historia es bastante chota. Literalmente lo único que hace es que Stanley se levanta de su oficina, ve que no están sus amigos y se toma el palo. Pero acá es donde empezamos de nuevo. ¿Por qué? Porque Stanley se quedó con dudas y yo también me quedé con bastantes dudas, la verdad.